Let's now create the assessment. And I've already set up the form here, so let's walk through it. This is the assessment quiz trial, and if we edit it, the first field at the top is a name field, just a standard name field that is required. Now for formatting purposes, I've put some HTML blocks in here. This just puts some basic titles within the structure of the assessment. These are the key questions here. These are radio button fields. And you can see the way that these have been set up here is these are show values and the different labels are shown. And what we've done is to set the values according to the answer given. So you see their values 0, 1, 2 and 3. And clearly this is a required field. Now, are there any other details here I should be showing you? I've put a bit of CSS in there just for layout purposes, and there's no additional advanced settings. So scrolling down, there's another HTML block, another radio button field. And this is where we get to the personality index. This is where the calculation is made for what the calculation score is. So we'll just look at this at a high level. This is a number field. We've enabled the calculation, which means that it calculates automatically based on values set elsewhere. And when that enable calculation comes up, then this maths box appears. I'm not going to explain in detail here how to do the maths. I'll do that in a minute. But that's where you insert the maths. And just to be clear, if I wanted to put something else in on the end of that formula, I could just say plus. And then if I want to insert a score, I find it difficult to introduce myself to other people. That score between 0 and 3. If I press on that, that then puts a merge code into that, and that basically just pulls in the number. That's how it works. So let me just get rid of that because I don't want that. And if you want to make sure the formula works, you just press on this button here and it just checks that there's a valid formula in there. So that's how the personality index is calculated. Now, other important things with this is that it's not visible, this field. Where's that setting? No, it's not there. It must be here. There we are. Yes, the visibility is administrative, which basically means that front-end users can't see it. But GFChart will be able to find it because that's what we need. So carrying on down, it's basically just rinse and repeat. More HTML blocks, more radio button questions, and now we've got the LARC index, which is calculated in exactly the same way as the previous index. And then we've got more HTML blocks, more radio buttons, and then there's an exercise index. And then we go on to the final series of questions. In this case, we've actually got 3 questions rather than 2, but they all work in exactly the same way. And then we've got the diet index. And I've actually added here an overall index at the end. You don't have to do this. I'll show you later on what that's for. But that's just done in exactly the same way. It's got the maths in there. In fact, the maths here is quite simple because it's just basically an average of the 4 previous fields. There's the personality index, the LARC index, the exercise index, and the diet index. And as you might recall from your high school maths, to work out the average, you sum them all up, and then you divide by the number you've summed by, the number of elements you've summed by. So you divide by 4 in this case. So look, that is the way the form is set up. You can actually download this as a template from the gfchart.com website. What I'm now going to do is to show you how the maths works. Each of our multiple choice questions has got 4 answers, and let's just call them option 1, option 2, option 3, and option 4. And you recall we set the value 0, 1, 2, or 3 to each of those. And we're trying to plot that on a chart between 0 and 100%. Now, the very simple way of doing this, if you've got two questions, is to average the answer of the two questions. So take the first answer, the second answer, and divide by 2. Now, because the maximum value is 3, you have to normalize it by dividing by 3, and then simply multiply by 100 to convert it to 100%. And there you go. It scales between 0 and 100%. Now, for cosmetic reasons, you may not actually want it to go from 0 to 100. It might be better to go from, say, 10 to 90. In that case, somebody that's on one end of the scale or the other doesn't suddenly come in at 0 or 100. They come in at either 10 or 90, which can look a bit more gentle. So let's look at how to scale it between 0 and 90. Again, the average, it's the same formula. It's the first point plus the second point divided by 2, and we multiply by a third. But this time we scale it by 80% rather than 100, and then we move it up a bit by adding 10 to it. Now, some of our questions have got 3 questions, and that's very simple. We just do x1 plus x2 now plus x3, because there's 3 items. We divide by 3, and once again we normalize it in the same way as before. Just to be clear, that first formula plots from 0 to 100. The next 2 are 10 to 90. The first 2 are for 2 questions, and the final one is for 3 questions. So now I'm going to insert that mathematical formula into the form. Here's the form we were working on earlier. I'm simply, for this exercise, going to create a new personality index under the original one. So I go to Add Fields, I choose the number field, and I drag and drop it here. There it's been inserted. And to edit it, I press on it, and let's call this Personality Index 2. And I would like this to, I'm going to enable the calculation. And now I'm simply going to type in the formula. So I'm going to open brackets. I'm going to insert the first field, which was, I find it difficult to introduce myself to other people. I'm going to add the second field, which is, when I'm tired, I relax by reading a book. And then I close brackets. Now, we would normally divide by 2 and then divide by 3, but the quick way of doing that is just to divide by 6. And then we multiply by 80, and then we add 10. And that's it. If I press the Validate Formula button, the formula appears to be valid. So all I need to do now is to save that, and it should all work. So that's the form finished. We now need to create a page on the website to insert the form. Now, as before, I've already done this, so let me just show you. Under Pages, I'm going to leave the page because I don't want to save what's there. That was just an example. And I've created a page called Assessment. You know, I just view that page. You'll see the form is inserted here. Some of the styling could do with some work, but basically there is the form. And you'll notice that when this appears, all the questions are there, but the various numerical calculations do not appear. And there's a submit button at the bottom. Now, depending on what form of editor you use, this is just the Saturn Gutenberg one. That's just the Gravity Form widget that allows you to insert that on the page. So there you have it. The page is now built with the form showing. In the next lesson, we're going to show you how to produce the assessment report.